Rissoles, they're an Aussie favourite and there are so many different ways to interpret them. Just like my version today, which is not the traditional one served with gravy. No, this one is served with a delicious spicy sauce. So let's get onto the sauce first. I like to add lots of onions to this because I'm not only going to use the onions in the sauce, but I'm also going to use the onions to flavour our delicious rissoles. So one large onion finely chopped. They can get a head start in the pan and cook that down until they're quite soft. I also like to add a pinch of salt. I'm also going to add one zucchini. And ever since I've become a mum, I take every single opportunity I can get to add extra vegetables to my dishes. So I'm only using zucchini for this recipe, but any vegetable, in fact, can go into this dish. But the main thing is to ensure that you cook down the vegetables so we extract their sweetness. And there's nothing worse than raw vegetables in the actual meat mixture. So we're going to cook this down before it gets added. So that's one zucchini, and that can go into. And it does look like quite a lot, but I'm going to let that cook down for about 10 minutes until it's softened and caramelised. Okay, while that cooks down, let's get on with our meatballs. I'm using chicken mince. It's quite lean, and it also goes really well with cheese. Haloumi in particular. This haloumi is great because it's also flavoured with some garlic, parsley and chive. So another big boost of flavour in our dish. And using the same grater, I'm going to grate the haloumi. And halloumi is one of those wonderful cheeses that almost holds its shape as it cooks. So when you bite into this, you're going to get bursts of delicious salty halloumi. You want to use a whole block for this. Once it's grated, it can go in with our chicken. And we'll just wait for those vegetables to finish off cooking before we add about half of it. Now, do not add half of it when it's piping hot. Just be patient. Let that cool for about 5 minutes before it goes into the chicken mince. Our vegetable mixture has really cooked down, half of it in a bowl to cool down, and then we can finish off the sauce. So into this, I'm going to add some spices, some subtle spices, some ground cumin, coriander. Of course, you can leave them out if you like. I like the almost Moroccan-inspired flavours to this, and for some extra spice, some chilli. Of course, you can leave this entirely out if there are people in the family that do not like chilli. And then in with our tomatoes, just a can of crushed tomatoes. Okay, that's looking good. I'm going to turn the heat up. We'll bring that up to the boil, and this needs to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes, even a little longer until it's thick and rich, which gives us plenty of time to finish off our meatballs. So we have our halloumi and our chicken mince already in here. I'm not adding any extra salt because the halloumi is going to season it enough, along with our cooled down vegetables. And I love to add breadcrumbs. Now, these are dried breadcrumbs. This is going to ensure that these stay nice and fluffy as they cook. So I'm going to start off with a fork and mash everything together and keep folding until it's really well combined. And then after that, get your hands in there and mash everything together so it's combined. That's looking good. Now, let's face it, it gets really sticky when it comes to rolling rissoles or meatballs. So my tip is to have a bowl of water on standby, and this ensures that we can roll them without sticky hands. And you can make these into any shape you like. Now, I always think the classic rissole sort of looks a bit like a falafel, so an oval shape like that. So you can do that, or if you like, you can just make them into patties like that. So it's completely up to you. And you can see when you've added a little bit of water to your hands, nothing sticks. Brilliant. So these go onto a tray. I'm going to make a few more of these and we can start frying them. All right, the rissoles are ready to cook. They'll take no time at all. A splash of oil in a non-stick pan, and then in they go. Then I'll give them about a minute on each side, minute or two. lovely rissoles are ready to go, and I'm going to serve this with rice. You can serve it with pasta, potato, whatever you like, or even just as is, because they are so filling. And our spicy sauce, look how this is cooked down nicely. Look at that, thick and rich. And we'll add a generous dollop of that over the top. And you can see how these rissoles have held their shape nicely, and none of that halloumi has oozed out. It's held everything together. It's a fantastic binding agent. Of course, it tastes fantastic too. To finish off, a dollop of yogurt. And I like to use yogurt for this because we've got the spices throughout the sauce. It goes nicely with that sort of Middle Eastern style vibe we're going with these rissoles. A few sprigs of coriander over the top and some freshly cracked pepper. And that right there is a delicious dinner. I'm going to have a taste of this. A little bit of that spicy sauce. I love how I can really taste the halloumi, the garlic in the halloumi. And by the way, if you just want to use plain halloumi, that also works really well. It also gives it a beautiful, fluffy texture, which is what I love. With the yogurt, rice, yum, yum, yum.